The moment my wife called me harmless in front of 80 people, I knew she'd signed her own final verdict. Not literally, of course. I'm an accountant, not a psychopath. But metaphorically? Oh, she was about to discover just how dangerous a boring man with a calculator could be. It was December 15th, the annual holiday party for Carla's marketing firm. The ballroom at the downtown Marriott sparkled with cheap tinsel and cheaper champagne. I stood there in my off-the-rack suit, watching my wife of 12 years flirt with Derek Hoffman like I was invisible. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Here comes my husband," Carla announced as I approached their little circle near the bar. Her voice carried that particular tone, the one she used when discussing expired milk or traffic jams. "David, meet Derek. He's in sales." Derek extended a manicured hand. Everything about him screamed expensive. The Italian shoes, the perfectly styled hair, the watch that cost more than my monthly salary. "So you're the accountant Carla's always talking about? All good things, I hope." I forced a smile that felt like broken glass. Carla laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. "Oh, Derek knows all about you. How you organize our sock drawer by color, how you read tax code updates for fun, how you're in bed by 9:30 every night." The circle of Derek's friends chuckled. I felt heat creeping up my neck. "Carla's been telling us she needs more excitement in her life," Derek said, his hand finding the small of her back. "Someone who knows how to have fun." "Derek took me parasailing last weekend," Carla purred. "When's the last time you did anything spontaneous, David?" I opened my mouth to respond, but Derek cut me off. "Don't worry, man. She's in good hands. I'll make sure she gets all the adventure she needs." The group erupted in laughter. Carla didn't even look at me as she said, "He's harmless. Wouldn't know what to do if I left anyway." That word, harmless, hit me like a physical blow. I stood there, frozen, as conversation swirled around me. Colleagues from both our companies watched the show, some with pity, others with barely concealed amusement. "I need another drink," I mumbled, backing away from the circle. "Get me a cosmopolitan," Carla called without turning around. "Derek's buying." I walked to the bar on unsteady legs, my mind reeling. 12 years of marriage, and this was how she saw me? Harmless. A joke to share with her new boyfriend, and yes, it was obvious that's what Derek was. The bartender, a young woman with sympathetic eyes, poured me a double whiskey. "Rough night?" "You could say that." I knocked back half the drink, feeling it burn down my throat. From across the room, I watched my wife throw her head back in laughter at something Derek whispered in her ear. His hand had moved lower, resting possessively on her hip. She leaned into him like she used to lean into me, back when we were young and stupid and in love. "Another?" the bartender asked. I nodded, pulling out my phone to check the time. 9:45. Normally, I'd be suggesting we head home soon. Tonight, I had different plans. I opened my camera app and pretended to scroll through messages while actually recording. Derek's hand slipped down to squeeze Carla's ass. She giggled and pressed closer to him. The whole display was so public, so brazen, that several other partygoers had started to notice. Monica Chen, Carla's assistant and supposed best friend, appeared beside me at the bar. "David, I'm so sorry. This is mortifying." "Is it?" I kept my voice level, still recording. "How long has this been going on, Monica?" She glanced around nervously. "I shouldn't say anything, but you're going to." I turned to face her fully, and something in my expression made her step back. 3 months, she whispered. "Maybe 4. David, I wanted to tell you, but Carla made me promise." "What else?" "They've been meeting at the Hilton downtown every Tuesday and Thursday when she says she's working late." Monica's words tumbled out in a rush. "She laughs about how clueless you are, says you're so boring she could cheat with the mailman and you wouldn't notice." I finished my second whiskey and set the glass down carefully. "Thank you for your honesty, Monica. What are you going to do?" I looked back at my wife, now practically grinding against Derek while their audience pretended not to stare. "I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for." "What do you mean?" I smiled, and Monica actually took another step back. She wanted excitement. She called me harmless. I think it's time to prove her wrong. The next morning, Carla slept until noon while I sat in my home office, staring at spreadsheets and planning my next move. She'd come home at 3 a.m., reeking of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine, and collapsed into bed without a word. I'd been awake all night, my mind racing with possibilities. The old David would have confronted her, demanded explanations, maybe suggested marriage counseling. But the old David was gone, eliminated by a single word at a Christmas party. Harmless. My phone buzzed with a text from Carla. Taking car to get detailed. Oil change overdue. I smiled. Her BMW was in the garage, and I happened to know she'd left her purse in the passenger seat last night. The purse containing her second phone, the one she thought I didn't know about. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in her car with the mysterious iPhone in my hands. No passcode protection. Carla had always been careless with technology. The messages with Derek went back 6 months, not 3, like Monica had said. 6 months of explicit photos, detailed plans for their Tuesday and Thursday encounters, and long conversations about what a pathetic husband I was. Derek. Can't believe you're still with that loser. Carla. It's complicated. He handles all the finances. I need time to figure out how to leave without losing everything. Derek. Guy's probably got a tiny dick anyway. Carla. LOL, you have no idea. I fake it every time. Has for years. Derek. Poor bastard. Think he suspects anything? Carla. Are you kidding? He's completely clueless. I could bring you home and sleep with you in our bed, and he'd probably just ask if you wanted breakfast after. I scrolled through months of this poison, each message adding another layer to my rage. But it wasn't just the infidelity that burned, it was the casual cruelty, the complete lack of respect for the man who'd supported her career, paid her student loans, and loved her unconditionally for over a decade. The photos were the worst part. Not just the nudes they'd exchanged, but screenshots of our text conversations that she'd sent to Derek so they could mock me together. My message? Hope your presentation goes well today. Love you. Carla's response to Derek. Look at this pathetic shit. Love you. Ugh. Derek. Dude's whipped. Probably still thinks you're faithful. Carla. He asked if I wanted him to pick up flowers yesterday. I almost faded laughing. I took screenshots of everything, methodically building a digital dossier of their affair. The hotel receipts Derek had forwarded, the explicit videos they'd made, the mocking commentary about my appearance, my personality, my performance in bed. But the final straw was a voice message from Carla, sent just 2 days ago. God, Derek. I can't wait to get rid of him. He's like a puppy that follows me around, begging for attention. It's honestly pathetic. Sometimes I look at him and wonder what I ever saw in the guy. He's boring, he's predictable, and he has zero ambition. You know what he did last night? Organized our spice rack. Our spice rack, Derek. While I was texting you about all the things I want you to do to me. I sat in that car for 2 hours, listening to my wife destroy 12 years of marriage with casual contempt. By the time I was finished, I felt hollow inside, like someone had scooped out my organs and left only rage behind. The old David was definitely gone. What emerged from that BMW was something else entirely, something that understood the difference between being harmless and being underestimated. I copied everything to a secure cloud drive, then carefully returned her phone to her purse exactly where I'd found it. Carla came home an hour later with shopping bags and a guilty smile. How was your morning, honey? She asked, kissing my cheek like she hadn't spent the previous night grinding against another man. Productive, I said. Very productive. That afternoon, while Carla was at her yoga class, which I now knew was code for sleeping with Derek at the Hilton, I drove to the seediest part of town and found what I was looking for, Murphy's boxing gym. The place looked like something out of a noir film, peeling paint, flickering neon, and the smell of sweat and violence. Perfect. Eddie Murphy, no relation to the comedian, was a 60-year-old ex-Marine who'd trained half the professional fighters in the state. He looked me up and down with obvious skepticism. You want to learn to box? I want to learn to fight. Same thing, son. Question is, what are you fighting for? I met his eyes. Respect. Eddie grinned, revealing a gold tooth. Well, shit. Why didn't you say so? When can you start? Right now. 3 weeks into my training with Eddie, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. The soft accountant with rounded shoulders was disappearing, replaced by someone harder, more dangerous. My suits hung differently. My handshake had developed an edge that made people pause. Carla noticed, but misinterpreted the change. You seem different lately, she said over dinner at Romano's, our usual Thursday night restaurant. Of course, she'd suggested Thursday because Derek was out of town on business. Different how? I don't know. More confident, I guess. It's actually kind of attractive. She reached across the table to touch my hand. Maybe we should go home early tonight. I almost laughed. After months of rejecting my advances, now that I was pulling away, she wanted to reconnect. Classic psychology. I have plans, I said, removing my hand from hers. Plans? What kind of plans? The gym. Since when do you go to the gym at night? Since I decided to stop being boring. I signaled for the check. You're always saying I should be more spontaneous. Carla frowned. I didn't mean... What? You didn't mean I should actually change? You just wanted to complain about me staying the same? The waiter brought our check, and I paid with cash instead of carefully calculating the tip on my phone like usual. Carla watched this small rebellion with growing unease. David, what's going on with you? Nothing's going on. I'm just tired of being predictable. That night at the gym, Eddie worked me harder than ever. My hands were bleeding inside the boxing gloves, and my ribs ached from the body shots he'd taught me to absorb. You're getting stronger, he said as I pounded the heavy bag. But strength ain't enough. You need to be smart about this war you're fighting. What makes you think I'm fighting a war? Eddie laughed. Son, I've trained 1,000 fighters. Half of them came in here because some woman broke their heart. The other half came because some man stole their woman. You got that look, like you're planning something big. I stopped hitting the bag and pulled off my gloves. What would you do if someone humiliated you in public? Made you look like a fool in front of everyone you know? Depends. We talking about a fair fight or revenge? Revenge, Eddie nodded approvingly. Then you don't get mad and you don't get even. You get ahead. Way ahead. You make them regret the day they decided to sleep with you. How? By being smarter than they are. By thinking 3 moves ahead while they're still figuring out the first one. He grabbed a towel and tossed it to me. What's your opponent's weakness? I thought about Derek's expense account fraud, Carla's workplace affair, the compromising photos on her phone. Arrogance. They think I'm stupid. Good. Use that. Let them underestimate you while you gather ammunition. Then when you're ready, you hit them where it hurts most. Which is? Their reputation, their money, their pride. Hit all 3 at once and they'll never recover. I drove home that night with Eddie's words echoing in my head. Carla was already asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand. I'd been monitoring her messages for weeks, watching the affair escalate while pretending to be oblivious. The latest exchange was particularly damning. Derek. Booked the penthouse suite for next Tuesday. Told my wife I'm in Chicago. Carla. Perfect. David's working late on the Morrison account. Won't be home until midnight. Derek. Think he's starting to suspect anything? Carla. Please. He asked if I wanted him to make me lunch yesterday. If he had any clue, would he be packing my sandwiches? Derek. LOL. Guy's pathetic. How do you stand it? Carla. Not much longer. I talked to a lawyer yesterday. Divorce papers should be ready next week. Derek. About time. Can't wait to have you all to myself. Carla. Just need to figure out how to keep the house, and my car, and half his retirement fund. Derek. Greedy girl. I like that about you. I screenshotted everything and added it to my growing file. Carla thought she was 3 moves ahead, planning to divorce me and take half of everything I'd worked for. What she didn't realize was that I'd been documenting her affair for months, building an ironclad case for adultery. In our state, infidelity voided any claim to alimony and significantly reduced property division rights. Carla's lawyer had apparently forgotten to mention that detail. But divorce wasn't enough. Not after the public humiliation, the months of lies, the casual cruelty I'd endured. I wanted them to suffer the way I'd suffered, publicly, completely, and without any hope of redemption. I wanted to destroy them both. Monica Chen turned out to be my most valuable asset, though she didn't know it yet. Carla's assistant had been feeding me information for weeks, driven by her own grudges against my wife. We met for coffee at a downtown Starbucks, far from both our offices. Monica looked nervous, constantly glancing around like she expected Carla to materialize from behind a display of holiday mugs. I shouldn't be doing this, she said for the 3rd time. But you are, I replied, sipping my black coffee. Because you know what she did to you was wrong. Monica's face darkened. 6 months ago, Carla had promised her a promotion to junior account executive. Instead, she'd given the job to her college roommate's daughter, a 22-year-old with no experience who'd lasted exactly 3 weeks before quitting. She looked me in the eye and lied, Monica said. Told me I wasn't ready, that I needed more experience. Then she hired that little snake who couldn't even write a proper email. What else has she done? You mean besides stealing credit for my campaign ideas? Besides making me work weekends while she was off screwing Derek? Besides telling everyone at the office that I'm not executive material? I leaned forward. I need specifics, Monica. Dates, emails, witnesses. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. Here. The Morrison campaign that won the industry award last month. That was my concept from start to finish. But Carla presented it to the client and took all the credit. Can you prove that? I have the original drafts with timestamps, plus emails where I outlined the entire strategy. Monica's voice grew stronger as her anger took over. She's been sabotaging me for years, David. Every time I get close to a promotion, she finds a way to undermine me. What about Derek? How much do you know about his business practices? Monica smiled for the first time since we'd sat down. Derek Hoffman is a walking HR violation. He's been sleeping with clients, padding his expense reports, and taking credit for other people's sales. I've been documenting everything. Why? Because Carla isn't the only one who can play dirty. She slid a flash drive across the table. Derek's expense reports for the last year, hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even a weekend trip to Vegas that he claimed was a client meeting, except the client was actually Carla, and they spent the whole time in bed. I pocketed the drive. What do you want in return? I want her job. When this all comes out, and it will come out, I want to be the one who replaces her. Consider it done. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer, Bill Shepard. He was old school, the kind of attorney who kept whiskey in his desk drawer and had never lost a case he cared about winning. Jesus Christ, David, he said, reviewing the evidence I'd compiled. This is a prosecutor's wet dream. Adultery, fraud, workplace harassment. Your wife and her boyfriend have handed you everything you need. What are my options? For the divorce? You'll get everything. The house, the cars, your retirement accounts, probably even spousal support if you want it. Bill leaned back in his leather chair. But I'm guessing you want more than just a favorable settlement. I want them destroyed. Professionally? Completely? Bill grinned. Then we're going to need a more creative approach. Tell me about their company's policies on workplace relationships. I'd already researched this. Carla's firm has a strict no fraternization policy between employees and clients. Derek's company prohibits relationships that could create conflicts of interest. And they've been violating both policies for months. With documentation. What about the expense account fraud? Derek's been billing personal expenses to his company for over a year. The Vegas trip alone was $15,000. Bill whistled low. That's felony territory if the company wants to press charges. Will they? If it becomes public? They'll have to, just to protect themselves from shareholder lawsuits. He pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. Here's what we're going to do. First, we file for divorce citing adultery and provide all your evidence. That becomes public record. Good? Second, we anonymously tip off both companies about the policy violations and fraud. Let their HR departments do the heavy lifting. What about the media? Bill looked up from his notes. What about them? This is a good story. Cheating wife, fraudulent boyfriend, workplace scandal. The business journals would eat it up. You want to go public? I want everyone to know what they did. I want their names attached to this scandal forever. Bill was quiet for a long moment. David, once we go down this road, there's no coming back. You'll destroy them, but you'll also destroy any chance of reconciliation. Good, I said. Reconciliation was never an option. That night, I went home to find Carla in the kitchen, making dinner like a proper wife. She'd even opened a bottle of wine, our wedding anniversary vintage that we'd been saving for a special occasion. What's all this? I asked. I thought we should talk. She handed me a glass of wine, her fingers lingering on mine. I know things have been strange between us lately. Strange how? Distant. Like we're living separate lives. She moved closer, and I could smell her perfume, the expensive stuff she usually saved for Derek. I miss us, David. I miss being close. I almost admired the performance. If I hadn't read her text planning to divorce me, I might have believed she was sincere. What brought this on? I've been thinking about what you said at dinner, about being more spontaneous, less predictable. She pressed against me, her hand sliding down my chest. Maybe we both need to change. Maybe we do. She kissed me then, and I kissed her back, tasting lies and desperation on her lips. She was trying to seduce me, probably hoping to buy time while her divorce lawyer prepared the papers. Too little, too late. Let's go upstairs, she whispered. Actually, I have plans tonight. She pulled back, confused. Plans? What kind of plans? The kind that don't involve you. I left her standing in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, staring after me with growing alarm. Let her wonder, let her worry. In 48 hours, her carefully constructed world would come crashing down, and there wouldn't be anything she could do to stop it. The divorce papers were served at Carla's office on a Tuesday morning, right in the middle of her weekly staff meeting. I'd specifically requested that timing, knowing it would maximize the humiliation. Monica called me 20 minutes later, barely able to contain her excitement. David, you should have seen her face. The process server walked right into the conference room and announced her name in front of everyone. She turned white as a sheet. What did she do? tried to play it off like it was no big deal, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't hold the papers. Then she read the adultery allegations and just broke down, started crying right there in front of the entire team. What about Derek? He got served at his office an hour later. His company's legal department is already asking questions about the expense account fraud you documented. Word is, they're launching a full investigation. I hung up and immediately called Bill Shepard. It's done. How long before this becomes public? The divorce filing hits the public records database this afternoon. I've already sent anonymous tips to the business reporters at both major newspapers, along with copies of the most damaging evidence. And their companies? HR departments received comprehensive reports this morning. Derek's already been suspended pending investigation. Carla's firm is being more cautious, but they can't ignore the policy violations. That evening, Carla came home like a woman walking to her execution. She found me in my office, calmly reviewing spreadsheets as if nothing had happened. "You bastard," she said from the doorway. I looked up from my computer. "Hello, Carla. How was your day?" "You know exactly how my day was." She stepped into the room, her face streaked with tears and makeup. "How could you do this to me?" "Do what? File for divorce from my cheating wife? You didn't have to make it public. You didn't have to humiliate me in front of everyone I work with." I leaned back in my chair, studying her with detached curiosity. "You mean the way you humiliated me at your Christmas party, when you called me harmless in front of 80 people? That was different." "How?" "I was drunk. I didn't mean—" "You meant every word." I stood up, and she instinctively stepped back. 3 months of boxing training had changed more than just my body language. "You've been planning to divorce me for weeks, Carla. Monica told me about your lawyer." Her face went pale. "Monica, that little snake has been spying on me. She's been telling me the truth, something you haven't done in months." Carla tried a different approach, her voice turning soft and pleading. "David, please. We can work this out. The affair, it didn't mean anything. Derek was just a mistake." "A 6-month mistake?" "You've been spying on me." "I've been protecting myself. There's a difference." She moved closer, reaching for me. "I love you, David. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. Start over?" "No." The simple words stopped her cold. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean it's too late. You made your choice when you decided I was boring, when you decided I was harmless, when you decided to mock me to your boyfriend and plan to take half of everything I've worked for." "I never said—" "You said all of it. I have recordings, Carla, screenshots, hotel receipts, photos. I have 6 months of evidence showing exactly what you think of me." She stared at me in growing horror. "You recorded my private conversations?" "I documented your adultery, for legal purposes." "This is insane. You're acting like a crazy person." I smiled, and she took another step back. "No, Carla. I'm acting like someone who's tired of being underestimated. You wanted excitement. You wanted someone dangerous. Congratulations. You created exactly what you asked for. David, please, pack your things. You have until tomorrow morning." "This is my house, too." "Not anymore. Check the divorce papers. Adultery voids your claim to marital property in this state. The house stays with me." She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face, finally understanding the magnitude of what she'd lost. "Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You can't do this to me. I already have." She left that night, taking only a suitcase and her wounded pride. I watched from the window as she loaded her BMW and drove away, probably heading to Derek's apartment. She'd find no comfort there. Derek had his own problems to worry about. The next morning brought the newspaper articles I'd been waiting for. The business section of both major papers ran stories about the scandal, complete with photos and detailed accounts of the affair, the expense account fraud, and the workplace policy violations. Marketing exec and sales director caught in affair scandal. Workplace romance leads to fraud charges. The stories had everything: closeness, lies, corporate corruption, and a wronged husband's methodical revenge. By noon, the scandal was trending on social media. By evening, both Carla and Derek had been fired from their jobs. Monica called to give me updates throughout the day. "David, it's incredible. Everyone's talking about it. Carla tried to come to work this morning, but security escorted her out. Her access cards were already deactivated." "What about Derek?" "His company's pressing charges for the expense account fraud. The DA's office is reviewing the case for prosecution." "Good. There's more. Remember that industry gala next month? The one where Carla was supposed to receive the Marketing Excellence Award? They've rescinded the honor and banned her from attending." I hung up feeling satisfied, but not complete. The public humiliation was perfect, the financial consequences devastating, but I wanted one final confrontation, a chance to look them both in the eye and let them know exactly who had orchestrated their downfall. I didn't have to wait long. Derek found me at Murphy's boxing gym 3 days later. I was working the heavy bag when he walked in, looking like a man who'd lost everything, which of course he had. "We need to talk," he said. I kept hitting the bag, ignoring him. Eddie watched from across the room, ready to intervene if things got physical. "I know you're behind all this," Derek continued. "The divorce, the fraud investigation, the newspaper stories. You destroyed my life." I stopped hitting the bag and turned to face him. 3 months of training had transformed me from a soft accountant into something harder, more dangerous. Derek noticed the change immediately. "You destroyed your own life," I said. "I just documented it. You ruined everything, my job, my reputation, my future. Your future was built on lies and stolen money. I just exposed the truth." Derek stepped closer, his hands clenched into fists. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Think you got your revenge?" "I don't think anything. I know." "Well, here's something you don't know. Carla never loved you. Not really. She told me you were pathetic in bed, that she'd been faking orgasms for years. She said marrying you was the biggest mistake of her life." I smiled, and Derek actually took a step back. "Is that supposed to hurt me?" "Derek, I've read every text message you two exchanged. I've heard every voicemail. You can't tell me anything about my wife that I don't already know." "Then you know she was planning to leave you anyway." "Of course she was. She was also planning to take half of everything I own. Thanks to you, she'll get nothing." Derek's face twisted with rage. "You smug bastard. You think you won. I know I won." He swung at me then, a wild haymaker that telegraphed itself from across the gym. I slipped the punch easily and countered with a straight right to his solar plexus. Derek doubled over, gasping for air. "Stay down," I advised. He tried to tackle me instead, driving forward with his shoulder. I sidestepped and let his momentum carry him into the heavy bag. He bounced off and stumbled backward, his expensive suit torn and dirty. Eddie appeared beside us. "That's enough, boys. Derek, right? You need to leave. Now." Derek straightened his jacket and glared at me. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I replied. "You're broke, unemployed, and facing criminal charges. Your reputation is destroyed, your career is finished, and the woman you thought you were stealing from me, she's already looking for your replacement." "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of Carla's latest dating profile. "She created this yesterday. Notice how it doesn't mention being recently divorced or unemployed?" Derek stared at the screen in disbelief. She's already been messaging other men. Want to see the conversations?" His face crumpled as the final betrayal sank in. Carla had abandoned him the moment their affair became a liability. No loyalty, no love, just cold calculation about her next move. "Get out of my gym," Eddie said, grabbing Derek's arm, "and don't come back." After Derek left, Eddie poured 2 glasses of whiskey from the bottle he kept in his office. "Feel better?" "Getting there." "What's next?" "One more conversation, then it's finished." Carla was waiting for me when I got home, sitting in her BMW in my driveway. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, makeup smeared, wearing the same clothes she'd had on when she left 3 days ago. "We need to talk," she said, getting out of the car. "No, we don't. David, please, 5 minutes." I unlocked the front door and walked inside, leaving it open behind me. She followed me into the living room where we'd spent 12 years of marriage pretending to be happy. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." "For which part? The affair, the lies, the public humiliation, or just for getting caught?" "For all of it." She sat down on the couch where we used to watch movies together. "I was selfish and stupid and cruel. I hurt you in ways that can never be forgiven." "You're right. They can't be. But we could try." "No, Carla, we couldn't." She started crying then, real tears this time instead of the calculated performance from earlier. "I lost everything, my job, my reputation, my marriage. I have nothing left." "You have exactly what you deserve." "How can you be so cold? I know I hurt you, but we had 12 good years. We had 12 years where I loved you and you tolerated me. There's a difference." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When's the last time you said you loved me and meant it? When's the last time you looked at me with respect instead of contempt?" She couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. Whatever love she'd felt for me had faded years ago, eliminated by familiarity and her growing resentment of the safe, predictable life we'd built together. Derek left me, she said quietly. I know. He said he never loved me, that I was just a fun distraction. Probably true. I have nowhere to go, no job, no money, no friends. Everyone thinks I'm a joke. I sat down across from her, studying the woman I'd once promised to love forever. What do you want from me, Carla? I want you to forgive me. Why? Because I can't live with what I've done. Because I see now what I threw away. Because I love you. No, you don't. You love the security I represented. You love the idea of not having to face the consequences of your actions. But you don't love me. That's not... You called me harmless, Carla. In front of 80 people, you reduced 12 years of marriage to that one word, harmless. I was drunk and stupid. You were honest. For the first time in months, you told the truth about how you really saw me. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. What if I was wrong? I leaned forward, letting her see the man she'd helped create. Harder, colder, infinitely more dangerous than the husband she'd betrayed. You were wrong. I'm not harmless. I'm something much worse. What's that? I'm patient. I'm thorough, and I never forget. She stared at me with growing fear. What are you saying? I'm saying that you created your own monster, Carla. You wanted excitement, danger, someone who could surprise you. Congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for. I stood up and walked to the door. Your 5 minutes are up. She followed me, desperate now. David, please. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever you want. Give up any claim to anything. Just don't leave me with nothing. You're not leaving with nothing, I said, opening the door. You're leaving with a valuable lesson about the difference between being harmless and being underestimated. I can't survive this scandal. My career is over. No one will hire me. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate me in public. She stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You meant every cruel word, every mocking laugh, every lie you told. The only thing you didn't mean was getting caught. So this is it? 12 years of marriage ends like this? No, I said. 12 years of marriage ended the night you called me harmless. This is just me making sure you never forget the lesson. I closed the door in her face and listened as she walked back to her car. Through the window, I watched her sit behind the wheel for several minutes, crying and probably trying to figure out what to do next. Finally, she started the engine and drove away for the last time. I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my empty house, surrounded by the silence of complete victory. Carla and Derek were destroyed, financially, professionally, and personally. Their reputations were in ruins, their careers were finished, and their relationship had imploded under the weight of mutual betrayal. But more than that, they now understood exactly who they'd been dealing with. The boring accountant they'd mocked and dismissed had systematically dismantled their lives with the same methodical precision he brought to tax returns and financial statements. They'd wanted a monster. I'd given them one. And the best part? Everything I'd done was completely legal. No violence, no illegal surveillance, no criminal activity, just a patient man with a calculator and an excellent memory for details. I raised my glass in a toast to the empty room. To being underestimated, I said aloud, and to never being called harmless again.